Signature.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this hour of the Shaun Thompson Show is sponsored exclusively by DonleyAuctions.com. They need your guns. Sell for top dollar. DonleyAuctions.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
From the streets of Melrose Park to the trading floor of the Merc, he's fought for every dollar he's ever earned. And now, with personal liberty and our system of capitalism under assault in America, he's here to seize back our rights from the government. With a cigar in one hand and a copy of the Declaration of Independence in the other, he's Shaun Thompson. And this is the Shaun Thompson Show.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag.
Insurrection! I wasn't there. No such thing, Squirrel. And in order to have an insurrection, you know what you need, Squirrel? You need a seditious conspiracy. You need a seditious conspiracy. Not a bunch of people who knew you had stolen an election and were slow-walking the trials, freezing out the demand for an audit, and you were hiding the evidence in your Democrat dunghole fiefdoms. The same one, like New York City, who in 1 year has doubled the amount of useless payments to useful people known as welfare. Did you know that, Squirrel? It doubled in a frackin' year. Rise of the useless. Of course, they want rent freezes. And what do they call that nonsense? Where they get to do absolutely nothing except stick that hair on in their arm or get paid to take care of their mother instead of being a son or a daughter. They pretend to be useful when they're useless. So, of course, they pretend to be, what are you? I'm a socialist. No, you're not. You're a useless form of scum. You destroy everything you've ever touched. However, Squirrel, in order for them to practice socialism, which is absolutely and unequivocally unconstitutional in America, completely illegitimate, can only be done through theft, regardless if you get enough political suck-ons to agree with the theft or not, it is still against the Constitution. But in order to create one, you know what you need, Squirrel? You need a seditious conspiracy. Now, it's funny about this word. Before the weaponization to cover up the most obvious election theft in American history, called the Joe Biden administration, that dimwit in diapers, that stupid son of a pig, thief, traitor, asset of enemies, foreign and domestic. You had to break all kinds of rules. Now, I think it was last week, right, Squirrel, when we talked about that schizophrenic fraud that Reid Hoffman had hired, had bribed, had paid for E. Jean Carroll and her cat named Nipples to steal an episode from Law & Order, SVU, season 13, episode 11, where she pretends to have been raped in a store. What did they have to do? They had to destroy the statute of limitations. Well, the same thing is true with this poppycock of a frame job called January 6th and the insurrection that didn't take place because I wasn't there and there was no seditious conspiracy. However, they charged a guy with seditious conspiracy. And it's funny, he wasn't even in Washington. And do you know what they did with their crooked rat prosecutors, corrupt judges? They set a precedent. Oh, it's true. That's the precedent.
More people who played a role in the chaos at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th now facing punishment. The latest, leaders of the Oath Keepers group. They've been convicted of different crimes from what we have seen before. WATE.
And that oath, ironically, was to the Constitution. The same one that the elected morons, and when I say morons, Squirrel, this dingbat broad might take the cake. Really, it's a hard competition. But AOC, she's proud. Whip out your stupidity, whore.
I don't support the filibuster. I don't support elements of this institution that we know, were founded on Jim Crow.
What? Jim Crow was a Democrat, and about 108 years after the founding of the country, the Jim Crow laws were passed. But you know the beauty about being a Democrat? Your entire party is a monument to the stupid, to the corrupt, and to the useless. So she's perfect. Keep running that dizzy bimbo. Keep your shirt on this time, whore. In the meantime, what they're talking about, her and the other socialists, is, in fact, a seditious conspiracy.
Part of what you said, for example, let's start with abolishing the Senate. The Senate is a very undemocratic institution. I talked a bit about democracy, small d democracy, and that's really important to us.
Is this the sissy with that Steven Seagal ponytail? It'll come back, I promise. Or is this some other moron that never worked a day in his useless life? Another useless, butter-handed, good-for-nothing who doesn't want to pay his student loans for his health care because he needs it, because he's got all kinds of orifice problems. What exactly is this suck-on's malfunction? Is it more or less than the Homeland veteran who tried to blow up the New York building, who fell in love with a goat when he was overseas? Now he hates America. Same thing, useless. All of them useless. But this is the sound of a seditious conspiracy.
Democratic representation of all people who live in this country. So the Senate represents it's 2 senators per state, and it's very undemocratic at a basic level because a state with a small population has the same representation as a state that has 500,000 people. Again,
you mean 500,000 useless commies? You mean 500,000 useless good-for-nothing? And the principles of a republic are the principles of the country. And that is the reason for not just an electoral college, but the idea that your corrupt dunghole areas like New York, dunghole, which has doubled the amount of people on welfare in the shortest period of time in American history. Did you know that, Squirrel? They didn't have welfare after the Depression. And the closest you can come is to the 2000 and 2008 economic collapses. Not even close to the Mamdani collapse, where $2.6 billion has been spent on welfare in the shortest period of time, and more, 925,000 now in New York receive welfare. And that's why, thank God, Benjamin Franklin and the other founders, brilliant men, smarter than any American in a Democrat area, smarter than any. I include myself in this, Squirrel. They prevented a way for these corrupt thieves, which is all this guy is. Thief, Mamdani thief, AOC thief, whore, all of it. A seditious conspiracy nonetheless.
It's the same representation as a state that has 40 million people, like California does, or New York State, or Texas, or...
It's interesting with California. One state, $146 billion in a year and a half. You stole. You allowed to be stolen. It's fascinating, huh, Squirrel? Do you know all these millions and billions and millions and billions they need? Did you know that front organization, Act Blue, since 2004, has taken $17 billion and donated it to these political whores? And they don't know where the money was, and they used straw voters, fake people, to distribute $17 billion. Well, that's the answer to all your commie dreams. Why don't you guys just stick to yourselves? And the answer is, they can't, Squirrel, because New York City is bankrupt. Shirakistan, bankrupt. All the Democrat counties, all of them, all stealing money they've never had and never made.
New York City distributed more than $2.6 billion in cash assistance in 2025, reaching nearly 865,000 residents. City records show that level is the highest in about 30 years. The increase is striking compared with 2022, when the city spent $1.57 billion.
Now, that's the only cut I could find. They've added 75,000 to that number since this was taken in December of 2025. And it's all out the door. In fact, it totals over $3.4 billion in just welfare. That seems funny. And yet all the suck-ons who collapsed the greatest business hub in the country, they're all given advice of how to overthrow the government in a true insurrection.
When we look at the landlords, we don't use those same standards.
Well, this is the guy. You could hear it with the S's. When I look at the landlords,
he's the one with the pony. You stick with that pony, sissy. It'll come back.
Landlords in New York have been making a 12% return on their investment on average.
How much should they make? What's fair for the landlord to make if you don't like 12?
They're complaining that 12 is not enough. And we don't think that anyone should have a constitutional right to double-digit returns on their...
A constitutional right to double... Listen here, you side saddle, orifice-stretching, useless moron that you are. Who are you? Are you a king? Are you a fascist?
This is ultimately what it leads to, Squirrel. A bunch of good-for-nothing, useless bust-outs who may or may not be wearing panties, trying to tell you what you can do with your money and your property. Completely anti-American.
Investment. That's why we've implemented.
No one should have a right to a double-digit return on their investment.
No one has a right. That's not. No.
What are you talking
no
about?
one's in the. That's not in the Constitution. But what we see.
That's not in the Constitution. Neither is destroying furniture in your house and making it stink in record time. However, here you are.
Is that when we implement a rent freeze, we have landlords who are crying that the government is going to put them out of business.
They're trying to run
You want to know what's funny about this whole thing? Crying. Nobody's crying until you useless morons pretend you make the decisions of property. And this is why you must try them all with a seditious conspiracy. You see, the country's built on property rights, or it isn't. Is it built on property rights? And if so, why do they get to just do nothing? You ever wonder that? Why do you get to do nothing? Should you not have to produce something? I mean, what are you good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again, Squirrel.
On your side, legal analyst Greg Isaacs joins us. It's always good to see you.
Lord, it's good to be here.
Here's what we're talking about today. One ringleader in particular, Stuart Rhodes, really stands out from the others. Let's talk about why he is so different.
Rhodes is different because prosecutors used a very old law, a seditious conspiracy that has its origins in the Civil War, where individuals plotted to overthrow the government. Seditious conspiracy means that one conspires, and you just need two or more people under federal law.
Well, I just played you to Sissy with the pony and the other useless moron. Not to mention Mandamni, AOC. Pick a rat Democrat. It's all a giant seditious conspiracy.
To overthrow, put down, or destroy the government by force.
You're right. We don't hear the term sedition practically ever.
Very, very rare. And it's interesting because this was a benchmark case. If they could get convictions for this with this high-profile leader of a militia group, a defrocked lawyer that graduated from Yale Law School, who did not even enter the Capitol, but he was on every media outlet talking about what they were going to do, talking about the use of force.
What he's referring to is the demand for an audit of the most obvious election theft. What we have before us are communists and socialists, mainly just useless suck-ons, calling and demanding for a insurrection, a seditious conspiracy.
Part of what you said, for example, let's start with abolishing the Senate. The Senate is a very undemocratic institution. I talked a bit about democracy, small d democracy, and that's really important to us. We want democratic representation of all people who live in this country. So the Senate represents, it's 2 senators per state, and it's very undemocratic at a basic level because a state with a small population.
You see, when you're getting your rent paid and your food and you're an absolute moron and bust out, you would think that that's a legitimate option versus what it really is, a conspiracy to overthrow our republic. And until each and every one is tried and convicted and put in jail, this will continue to seem as if it's an option when it clearly is not. But what it does represent is the follow-through of the shadow government that was started by Barack, who likes big butts and he cannot lie, and all of the other government assets to the conspirator and the overthrow of America that the Barack Obama administration started.
Another official inside the FBI wrote that she was running, quote, a shadow government, unquote, to keep intelligence about China's election meddling from becoming known and to keep it away from the honorable press.
You know what that bimbo does now, who bragged about it? She works for Microsoft. That's funny. How many government contracts does Microsoft have? How many involvements with the Obama administration, the Biden administration? How much money was given to Microsoft after they solidified the most obvious election theft in American history? Microsoft and Bill Gates, also seditious conspirators. 312-642-5600.
make money, smoke cigars, and live free on The Shaun Thompson Show on AM 560. The Answer.
This is Hugh Hewitt for Time.